north to south, coast to coast. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Welcome to the broadcast. Our telephone number is 844-RADIO-US, 844-723-4687. So by now, the news story has gone ahead and run its course. What is next? Glad you asked. What is next is, okay, what do you think about what you saw having to do with Robert S. Mueller III and all the things that happened yesterday in two hearings, one for the House Judiciary Committee and one of them for the House Intelligence Committee. What did you see? What do you believe? What do you think? What has changed, if anything? Has anything changed? I'm just wondering. Hang on a second. What? Stop it. Stop it. Thank you very much. Okay, so one of my cords is giving me a problem. We'll work on that coming up a little bit later on. Okay, so the circumstance goes like this. Really? Okay. So the circumstance goes like this. Robert S. Mueller III shows up on Capitol Hill. He was essentially browbeaten into doing so. It was something he did not want to do. It was a disaster for anybody trying to move the idea that there would be some kind of impetus to move forward with impeachment proceedings against the president. Because what ended up happening was we saw a bunch of things having to do with Robert S. Mueller III that, I got to be perfectly honest with you, really gave a whole lot of vision as to just exactly what Robert Mueller did and what Robert Mueller didn't do. And what he did not do was stark. And it was awful that he attempted to be able to testify on something that he didn't really know much about. Why didn't he know anything about it? Well, the reason he didn't know anything about it is because he didn't write it. He was basically, apparently, a figurehead to be used by a bunch of leftist, pro-Hillary, angry Democrats, just like President Trump said, to write a report as damaging as possible to the President of the United States, which explains a whole bunch of things. We will get to that coming up in just a couple of minutes. But here's something I want you to do. I want you to listen really close to what you're about to hear from a guy named Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson was the last Republican to question Robert S. Mueller III. He was the last guy. And he essentially was the closer, and he said so. And this guy is a genius. Mike Johnson is worthy, and this was something you might have just overlooked. You might have been so sick of the testimony by the time they got to the end of the testimony of the House Judiciary Committee that you just kind of blew it off and walked away. If you did, you missed this. Once again, you're hearing Mike Johnson, Representative Mike Johnson, talking to Robert S. Mueller III.
You've been asked a lot of questions here today, and to be frank, you performed as most of us expected. You've stuck closely to your report, and you have declined to answer many of our questions on both sides. As the closer for the Republican side, I know you're glad to get to the close, I want to summarize the highlights of what we have heard and what we know. You spent 2 years and nearly $30 million taxpayer dollars and unlimited resources to prepare a nearly 450-page report, which you described today as very thorough. Millions of Americans today maintain genuine concerns about your work, in large part because of the infamous and widely publicized bias of your investigating team members, which we now know included 14 Democrats and 0 Republicans. Campaign finance reports later showed that team, it's my time. That team of Democrat investigators you hired donated more than $60,000 to the Hillary Clinton campaign and other Democratic candidates. Your team also included Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, which have been discussed today, and they had the lurid text messages that confirmed they openly mocked and hated Donald Trump and his supporters, and they vowed to take him out. Mr. Ratcliffe asked you earlier this morning, quote, can you give me an example other than Donald Trump where the Justice Department determined that an investigated person was not exonerated because their innocence was not conclusively determined, unquote. You answered, I cannot. Sir, that is unprecedented. The president believed from the very beginning that you and your special counsel team had serious conflicts. This is stated in the report and acknowledged by everybody. And yet, President Trump cooperated fully with the investigation. He knew he had done nothing wrong, and he encouraged all witnesses to cooperate with the investigation and produced more than 1.4 million pages of information and allowed over 40 witnesses who were directly affiliated with the White House or his campaign. Your report acknowledges on page 61, volume 2, that a volume of evidence exists of the president telling many people privately, quote, the president was concerned about the impact of the Russian investigation on his ability to govern and to address important foreign relations issues and even matters of national security. And on page 174, volume 2, your report also acknowledges that the Supreme Court has held, quote, the president's removal powers are at their zenith with respect to principal officers, that is, officers who must be appointed by the president and who report to him directly. The president's exclusive and illimitable power of removal of those principal officers furthers the president's ability to ensure that the laws are faithfully executed, unquote. And that would even include the attorney general. Look, in spite of all of that, nothing ever happened to stop or impede your special counsel's investigation. Nobody was fired by the president. Nothing was curtailed, and the investigation continued unencumbered for 22 long months. As you finally concluded in Volume 1, the evidence, quote, did not establish that the president was involved in an underlying crime related to Russian election interference, unquote. And the evidence, quote, did not establish that the president or those close to him were involved in any Russian conspiracies or had an unlawful relationship with any Russian official, unquote. Over those 22 long months that your investigation dragged along, the president became increasingly frustrated, as many of the American people did, with its effects on our country and his ability to govern. He vented about this to his lawyer and his close associates, and he even shared his frustrations, as we all know, on Twitter. But while the president's social media accounts might have influenced some in the media or the opinion of some of the American people, none of those audiences were targets or witnesses in your investigation. The president never affected anybody's testimony. He never demanded to end the investigation or demanded that you be terminated, and he never misled Congress, the DOJ, or the special counsel. Those, sir, are undisputed facts. There will be a lot of discussion, I predict today, and great frustration throughout the country about the fact that you wouldn't answer any questions here about the origins of this whole charade, which was the infamous Christopher Steele dossier, now proven to be totally bogus, even though it is listed and specifically referenced in your report. But as our hearing is concluding, we apparently will get no comment on that from you. Mr. Mueller, there's one primary reason why you were called here today and by the Democrat majority of our committee. Our colleagues on the other side of the aisle just want political cover. They desperately wanted you today to tell them they should impeach the president. But the one thing you have said very clearly today is that your report is complete and thorough, and you completely agree with and stand by its recommendations and all of its content. Is that right?
True.
Mr. Mueller, one last important question. Your report does not recommend impeachment, does it?
I'm not going to talk about recommendations.
It does not conclude that impeachment would be appropriate here, right?
I'm not going to talk about that issue.
That's one of the many things you wouldn't talk about today, but I think we can all draw our own conclusions. I do thank you for your service to the country, and I'm glad this charade will come to an end soon, and we can get back to the important business of this committee with its broad jurisdiction of so many important issues for the country. With that, I yield back.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Could not have been better. It was a perfect summation of exactly what happened. Now, there are a couple of things that I take a little bit of exception to. Regarding the president not demanding that Robert S. Mueller III be fired, he did say to at least one of his aides that Robert S. Mueller III had to go, and did direct someone to fire him who said, no, I won't do it. If you make me do it, I'm going to resign. And that stopped it right there. We're going to be truthful on this broadcast. You know, Mr. Johnson is a Republican congressman, a brilliant Republican congressman. But to be perfectly honest with you, when he said that was an undisputed fact, that's not true. The president did call for the firing of Robert S. Mueller III, and his aides said no. Now, the question is this. That is one of the ideas that has been floated as an obstruction of justice move. And that leads to a couple of different points. Point number one, yes, President Trump did direct the firing of Robert S. Mueller III from his special counsel seat. his aides stopped him. It is not obstruction of justice to call for something from one of your aides that does not happen. Once again, it is not a high crime or misdemeanor to say, I want you to fire this guy, and to have your staff say, no, sir, we're not going to do that, and if you force me to, I'm going to quit. That is not obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice, if you want to loosely call it this, although I believe the president has the right to fire the special counselor, the special prosecutor, the special whatever, I believe that would have been a political mistake very akin to the Saturday Night Massacre when Richard Nixon fired Archibald Cox, the special prosecutor for the Watergate investigation. That would have been a mistake. And that is exactly what his aides, President Trump's aides, told him and stopped him from doing. Now, those aides did their job. They stopped the president from making what probably would have been a fatal mistake for his presidency. That's what advisors are for. A president of the United States has advisors for that reason. They advise the president. And the president changed his mind and did not force the firing of Robert S. Mueller III, and therefore there is no obstruction. Unless, of course, you believe that the president having that conversation with someone is somehow obstructing justice, even though nothing was actually obstructed and no one was actually fired. If you believe that was indeed obstruction of justice, and if you believe that is actionable, then you also believe that the president should be held accountable for private conversations that he has with his advisors, rendering the whole idea of advisors completely moot. It also does something else, and this is another part of this. Does the president have the right to have a private conversation? Does the president have the right to have a private conversation? Now, there are arguments on both sides of this. The president of the United States in the Oval Office, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is it possible for him to have a private conversation with anyone? I think the broad answer is no. But I also believe that executive privilege has been very carefully and very well defined by the Supreme Court of the United States regarding what you have to announce to the public or what can be announced to the public as truth and justice in the American way and what does not. So the President of the United States, at least in one or several occasions of this report that says, hey, he's guilty of obstruction of justice, is guilty of having a private conversation with one of his advisors. Did the president indeed extend executive privilege to stop his advisor from testifying to the fact that I just described to Robert S. Mueller III? The answer is no. Could he have done so? Yes. Would it have been more obstructive for the president to exert executive privilege against his advisors saying anything to Robert S. Mueller III? Or would it have been more of an obstruction of justice to say, go ahead and testify and tell him what you know? Which is it? You're listening to the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells, going over the Mueller testimony, and there's more. Stay where you are. This is the USA Radio Network.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and three-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-985-1813 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you a copy of The #1 Mistakes Retirees Are Making with Their Investments Today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-985-1813 now. Again, that's 800-985-1813. Employees of J.D. Melberg Financial have the appropriate licenses for the products they offer.
Do you wish you could get better sleep and maybe lose a few pounds? Maybe more than a few pounds? Well, there's this product called Calitrin that helps with both sleep and weight loss. Just listen to what people are saying about it.
I've been taking Calitrim for right about 3 months, and I've lost 24 pounds and 19 overall inches. But my sleep has improved, I have so much more energy, and I have the desire to succeed more than ever. Anyone who needs weight loss, more energy, and better sleep, this product really does deliver.
I'm Roger. Over the 3 months that I took the product, my sleeping habits are increasingly much better. I got a better night's sleep, and I just can't say enough about the product and how it makes you feel. Also, additionally lost a little bit of weight on the program as well.
Hi, this is Erin, and I take Calitrin for weight loss, and I've lost about 20 pounds, and I feel great.
Calitrin is scientifically proven to help with sleep and weight loss safely and effectively. Check it out at toploss.com. That's toploss.com.
Got an old car? You can donate it, whether it's running or not, to the United Breast Cancer Foundation and save a life. They'll even come and pick it up for free. The United Breast Cancer Foundation has saved hundreds of women's lives through their free or low-cost breast screen exams. But now they need your help. The United Breast Cancer Foundation wants to save more lives through early detection by offering women free or low-cost breast screening exams. And donating your old car, SUV, or truck, whether it's running or not, helps pay for them. Plus, you get a charitable tax deduction. Help the United Breast Cancer Foundation save lives by donating your old car, SUV, or truck. Call now for free pickup. 800-280-2144. 800-280-2144. 800-280-2144. Call right now. That number again is 800-280-2144.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All-American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-610-5739. 800-610-5739. That's 800-610-5739. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
With a recession ending, if you've been putting off building your business, now is the time to act. General Steel will meet or beat any price on a pre-engineered steel building of the same size and specifications. Act now, before steel prices go up. So call us today for free information.
Call 800-965-1290. 800-965-1290, 800-965-1290.
You are listening to the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We are going back through the Mueller report. If you have an opinion on the report and you have an opinion on his testimony, please join us at 844-RADIO-US. 844-723-4687. We were just talking about AIDS and whether or not the President of the United States has the right to have a private conversation with an aide in the Oval Office or on the job. And I put forward the idea that the president indeed cannot have a private conversation, but can protect the contents of conversations with aides by something called executive privilege. The president did not exert executive privilege in any of this. And so when you start talking about some of the testimony, say, for example, the 30 hours worth that Robert S. Mueller III heard from Don McGahn, then you start hearing about how the president asked Don McGahn to change his story when it came to testimony before Robert S. Mueller III. This is something that I think is just the littlest bit iffy. Now we're going to get to the rest of what other people think, but this is just what I'm thinking so far. Attorney General William Barr asserted that it was not a crime for President Trump to ask an aide to lie for him, arguing there's a difference between asking someone to fire Special Counsel Robert Mueller versus having him removed based on a conflict of interest. During a hearing at the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, questioned Barr over whether Trump obstructed justice. You have a situation where a president essentially tries to change the lawyer's account in order to prevent further criticism of himself, said Feinstein. She referenced an episode detailed in the Mueller report involving former White House counsel Don McGahn. And then Barr said, well, that's not a crime. And Feinstein said, so in this situation, you can instruct someone to lie. Barr argued that Trump would have to be impairing the evidence in a particular proceeding for it to amount to obstruction of justice, and suggested McGahn had taken note of Trump's request to move the special counsel to memorialize that the president was not explicitly asking for Mueller to be fired. There is a distinction between someone saying to go fire Mueller, and saying have him removed based on conflict of interest. They have different results. That may be true. In the most narrowest legalistic interpretation of all of that, but remember, there are two things at work here. There is legality, DOJ, William Barr, and so on and so forth, and then there's politics. Like the difference between criminal law and civil law, you have to have guilt beyond reasonable doubt in criminal law. You can have guilt based on a preponderance of the evidence in civil law. When it comes to criminal law or breaking of law, the president is on different legal grounds than, say, for example, the rest of us. But when it comes to politics, the kangaroo court of Congress and all of the things that go with an impeachment hearing or an impeachment presentation, what have you, a proceeding, then what you have is again, a much broader leeway when it comes to identifying what is or what is not a high crime or misdemeanor. Now, Barr says that it's okay to ask your White House counsel not to tell the truth. I'm not sure I agree. In fact, I'm pretty sure I don't agree. Now, could the president have exerted executive privilege and told McGahn to not say anything about the issue at all? Yeah. Was that probably what he should have done? Yeah. Did he do so? No. Why? Well, because he doesn't think he did anything wrong, and he is not a sophisticated politician. He doesn't know the ways of the world when it comes to politics, and President Trump made a mistake. He should have invoked executive privilege and not allowed Don McGahn to talk about such things as the, say, for example, firing of Robert Mueller. There's more. What do you think? 844-RADIO-US, 844-723-4687. You're listening to The Wells Report. I'm John David Wells, back with more on the USA Radio Network.
Hi, this is Wayne Allen Root. I have a voice problem. My voice easily gets hoarse. That's a big problem when you're a talk show host. I talk thousands of hours a year on radio and TV. I have to protect my voice. Well, those problems are a thing of the past. My throat is now a workhorse because of My Doctor Suggests all-natural silver lozenges. I pop these lozenges all day long and all show long. Silver has been used historically to destroy bacteria, viruses, and even yeast. Imagine sucking on a lozenge and letting the silver slowly and consistently destroy the cause of mouth, throat, and respiratory problems. Those lozenges work. I'm living proof. They're a miracle for me. Now a more advanced silver formula is available in a liquid gel or lozenge form, and you can get all three in one package and 20% off because War sent you. My Doctor Suggests the name of the company, but Wayne Root doesn't suggest. I urge you to try these remarkable all-natural lozenges today. Call 866-660-9868. That's 866-660-9868, or go to mydoctorsuggest.com/root. Use promo code USA Radio to save 20% off. That's mydoctorsuggest.com/root.